You know, I've noticed from hiking up mountains in Japan that when you're looking for a new trail, the best place to look is behind a shrine. So many trails start behind shrines. So I've come back to a shrine I was at recently to see if there's a trail behind it up into the mountain. Well, what would you know? There's a trail. Another tip, it's not always the case, but when you're looking for a trail in the mountain, there's a good chance there's one below these pylons. So if you look at the top of the mountain, you can see a big, what are they called? Those electricity pylon things. There's most likely a trail that leads up there. Now it's probably obvious, but most trails in Japan, at least up mountains in Japan, at least in my part of Japan, have steps. So if you're going up a trail and you're not sure if you're actually on the proper trail or not, well, if there are no steps at all, chances are you're off the beaten path. And speaking of the beaten path, you can tell really if people have been walking around, if the ground's well trodden or not. If it's not, you're lost. Now this is what makes hiking up mountains in Japan so exciting, because I was expecting there to be just a big electricity pylon at the top. I wasn't expecting to find this. So it appears this is Shiroyama Jinja, White Mountain Shrine. I could be misreading that. It could be Hakuzan, which is another reading for Shiroyama. But again, I had no idea this place was here, so it's quite a nice little find. Very peaceful. I'm the only person up here. There seems to be a trail off behind me. I'm just going to go and explore that next. I was asked recently if signs in Japan are all in Japanese and English. Well, most main road signs are. But out here in the mountains, you're not going to find a lot of English. Let me get closer here. It's very, very helpful if you can read a bit of Japanese. I mean, I've been here for 15 years, and I can't read a lot of the place names that are on signposts in the mountains at all. And even if I could read them, it doesn't mean that I know where they're pointing to. You know, who knows the names of all the peaks in a mountain range, you know? So even if you see a signpost, you really need to have your bearings. It's very easy in a mountain to lose your bearings where you think north is south and south is north. It just gets incredibly confusing. Numerous times I've gone up a mountain and come down the wrong side, and then you have to walk around the roads or around the outside of the mountain. And you might have a phone. You could check Google Maps if you're lucky, but in some of the some areas up here I don't get reception, so I have no map, and yeah, it's very easy to get lost. The mountains I'm in right now are really small, and it's a rather narrow mountain range, so you can't really get too lost. But a really good tip, if you're in something a little more challenging than this, is to look for yellow or red tape tied to tree branches. Hold on, have a look at this. The signs here, Chubu Denroku. That's the name of the power company that operates all these electricity lines. So they're not really for hikers. They're actually for the guys who, well, hang on, you can see. It's just the direction of the power lines. So anyway, yeah, this yellow or red tape or cloth tied to tree branches and stuff, I've not seen them out here in these mountains, but they certainly, in something bigger, like when I climbed Fukube Gatake, Mount Fukube, others as well. I think Mount Tenno had them as well. You're going to see red and yellow tape. It basically marks the route, and it's essential because where there's not a clear trail, if you didn't have this tape to guide you, you would have no idea where to go. So let's say you're in a mountain, you're a little bit lost, as I have been before. You can't see any yellow or red tape, there's no signposts. You can't really tell if the ground is well trampled or not. What do? Well, I do the granny test. Imagine you're an old granny. Now, so many hikers in Japan are elderly people. And the granny test is, if a granny can do it, then you're on the right trail. If it's too hard for a granny to do, then you're off the beaten track. So if you find yourself climbing up rocks up a stream or something, well, could a granny do that? Probably not. You're lost. Go back. And go back. That's my next tip. Goodness. It's happened to me before where I think I'm on the right trail. You know, I'm not too sure, but this looks good to me. So you just keep on going and going and going, and you just get further out of your depth, further into no man's land, and the further you go, the harder it is to find your way back. So if you're in doubt, if you think you're lost, just turn around and go back straight away. Get your bearings, and then you can start again. Talking about red tape and yellow tape and cloth and stuff tied to trees, occasionally you'll find something stuck in the ground of red or yellow colour to let you know you're on the right path. For example, this little concrete block that seems to serve no other purpose than to let you know you're on the right track. while rare in Japan, a little bit of litter does serve to show that you're on the same track as well. Well, coming from where I came from, I've managed to join up to another part of the Kakamegahara Alps, the place where I usually start my trail runs. In fact, even though there's a signpost behind me, I had no idea that you could actually go off in that direction. I always thought you'd go in that direction. So that's awesome. I've just extended the Kakamegahara Alps by about, I don't know, 1 or 2 kilometres. Of course, now I have to go back because my car's over there. So I've given you just a few hiking tips, but you know, I've barely scratched the surface really, and I'm not really much of a hiker, so you know, but I'm thinking wearing little cowbells and stuff, and what to wear so you don't get attacked by wild boars or stung by bees, what kind of food and first aid and all the stuff you should take with you if you're going for you know, something a little more challenging than what I'm doing right now. And there must be so many, you know, tips for hiking. If you've got any tips for hiking, they don't have to be specific to Japan. I think tips in general would be very useful regardless where you are. Please share, I'd love to hear, or post a video response. It's not red or yellow, but it serves the same purpose. You know you're on the right route. I've come back to this point. This was a fork in the trail, so I just went off that way up to that little shrine, but now I'm going to head back the other way and see where that goes. Well, there's no obvious way to continue, so this rock behind me must indicate the highest point of this little mountain. It looks a bit like a grave actually, but I'm sure it's not. At least I hope it's not. What does this say? Osuware-sama. I'm not too sure what that means. Someone tell me? Osuwara-sama. Osuwara-sama. I'll post some photos from this little hike on my Facebook page and maybe on Twitter as well. So if you're not following me on Twitter, if you haven't liked my Facebook page, please do. The links are below. And thank you very much for watching. Till next time. One last little thing about hiking in Japan. It's quite common to find hiking poles, well, big sticks used as hiking poles at the start of each trail. Not all the time, but there's a few places, especially around here. Isn't that awesome? Between you and me, I've got one of these sticks that I borrowed and it's at home outside my front door. I do keep meaning to bring it back, but it's just a big stick and there's loads here, you know, who's going to miss it? And I use it probably more than any of them.